Being protected by a man who could destroy you with a word isn't safety. It's standing at the edge of a cliff and calling it solid ground. Amara didn't sleep. How could she, when every time she closed her eyes she saw Ife's terrified face, heard her mother's voice, felt the weight of Min-Jae's final words settling into her bones like lead? If you betray me even once, I'll make sure you understand exactly what your mother was running from. She lay in the expensive bed in the expensive room in the criminal's expensive penthouse, staring at the ceiling and watching Seoul's lights dance across it through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Somewhere in this city, her mother's secrets were buried. Somewhere, the truth was waiting. And somewhere, Thorne was planning how to kill them all. At 4:47 a.m., she gave up on sleep entirely and went to find coffee. The penthouse was eerily quiet in the pre-dawn darkness. She found the kitchen by following the smell of brewing coffee and discovered she wasn't alone. A man sat at the counter, massive, easily 6'4", built like he could bench press a car. He had tattoos crawling up both arms, a shaved head, and the kind of face that had seen violence and chosen to keep living anyway. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more captivating episodes. He looked up when she entered, and his expression softened into something almost gentle. You must be Amara. I'm Marcus. American accent, California maybe. Coffee's fresh. Min-Jae told me you take it black with 1 sugar, but you tell people you take it black. He notices everything, doesn't he? Part of what's kept him alive this long. Marcus poured her a cup, adding exactly 1 sugar before she could protest. Your sister's still sleeping. I checked on her 20 minutes ago. She's safe. Amara took the coffee gratefully, the warmth seeping into her cold hands. How did you end up working for someone like Min-Jae? Marcus smiled, a flash of white teeth in his dark face. Long story. Short version. I was military police stationed at Camp Humphreys 5 years ago. Got into some trouble, the kind that involves gambling debts and people who don't like to be owed money. Min-Jae paid off my debt. Asked for nothing in return except that I think about whether I wanted to keep being the kind of person who got into that situation. And you decided to work for a crime boss instead? I decided to work for someone who gave me a second chance when the system I'd served my whole life was ready to throw me away. Marcus's voice was quiet but firm. Min-Jae's not a good man by conventional standards. But he's better than most people with power. He pays fairly. Protects his people. Doesn't deal in the really dark shit, no human trafficking, no kids, no forced prostitution. In Seoul's underworld, that makes him practically a saint. That's a pretty low bar. Yeah, well, welcome to reality. Bars are low everywhere, not just here. He studied her over his coffee cup. Your mom understood that. She knew the system was broken, so she worked outside it. Found people like Min-Jae who were already outside and tried to point them towards something better. Did it work? You're still alive, aren't you? Your sister's asleep in the next room instead of in Thorne's torture chamber. I'd say it worked pretty well. Marcus set down his cup. Min-Jae told me to teach you how to shoot today. You up for that? Do I have a choice? There's always a choice. But some choices are smarter than others. He stood, his size even more impressive upright. Come on. We've got a range set up in the basement. Soundproofed. No one will hear us practice. Amara followed him down 2 flights of stairs into what had once been a parking garage and was now something else entirely. Shooting range on one side, training mats on the other, weapons locked in cases along the walls. This wasn't just a safe house. This was a fortress. Ever held a gun before? Marcus asked, pulling out a small pistol. Once. My dad took me shooting when I was 16. I hated it. Good. Fear means respect. Respect means you won't do anything stupid. He handed her the weapon, showing her how to hold it properly. This is a Glock 19. Standard, reliable, not too much kick. Perfect for someone your size. We're not trying to make you a soldier. We're just making sure you can protect yourself if everything goes sideways. They spent the next 2 hours drilling. How to hold the gun. How to aim. How to breathe. How to squeeze the trigger instead of pulling it. By the time the sun was fully up, Amara's hands were sore and her ears were ringing despite the protection, but she could hit a target at 15 feet with reasonable accuracy. Not bad, Marcus said, genuinely impressed. You've got steady hands. Probably from all that typing. Most people shake like leaves their first time. I'm terrified. I'm just very good at pretending I'm not. Even better. Fear keeps you alive if you don't let it paralyze you. He started packing up the weapons. Min-Jae wants to leave for Namsan Tower in 30 minutes. You should eat something, check on your sister, get ready. Amara went back upstairs to find the penthouse coming alive. A young Korean man who looked like he lived on energy drinks and code was setting up laptops at the dining table. A woman in her 40s with silver-streaked hair and sharp eyes was speaking rapid Korean into a phone. And Min-Jae was standing at the window, dressed in dark clothes, looking out at Seoul like a king surveying his kingdom. He turned when she entered. You learned to shoot. How did you? I can smell the gunpowder. And you're holding your right hand like it's sore. He moved toward her, reaching out before she could protest and taking her hand gently. His fingers were warm, careful as they examined her palm. Marcus pushed you hard. Good. You'll need those skills. Being this close to him was disorienting. He smelled like expensive cologne and something darker, smoke, maybe, or the lingering scent of violence. She could see the dragon tattoo up close now, the incredible detail of each scale, and wondered how many hours he'd spent under the needle, turning his body into art and armor. Your sister's awake, he said, still holding her hand. She's in the kitchen with Ji-won. The silver-haired woman, she's my second in command. She's good with scared kids. Had 3 of her own before she joined me. Why did she join you? Because her husband was a cop on Thorne's payroll who beat her bloody every Friday night after drinking his bribe money. I offered her a way out. She took it. He released her hand finally, stepping back. Everyone here has a story, Amara. Everyone here chose this life because the alternative was worse. Remember that before you judge too harshly. She found Aoife in the kitchen, eating rice and kimchi that Ji-won had prepared. Her sister looked exhausted, her eyes red from crying, but she managed a small smile when Amara sat down. Ji-won's been telling me about her daughters, Aoife said quietly. They're in university now. She hasn't seen them in 5 years because it's safer if Thorne doesn't know they exist. Ji-won looked up from the stove, her expression soft. They understand. They know I'm doing this for them. To make Seoul safer for their generation. Her English was good, barely accented. Your mother understood that too. She knew some fights take longer than one lifetime. Did you know my mother? Amara asked. I met her twice. Once at a clinic in Itaewon where she was treating women who'd escaped from dragon sect brothels. Once at a safe house where she was interviewing trafficking victims for her research. Ji-won's eyes were sad. She was fearless. And kind. A rare combination. She gave those women hope that someone cared enough to listen, to document what had happened to them, to try to make the people responsible pay. And then those people killed her. Yes, but not before she collected enough evidence to destroy them. We just have to finish what she started. Ji-won served them both more food. Eat. You need strength for what's coming. Amara ate mechanically, her mind racing. 24 hours ago, she'd been a journalist publishing an article. Now she was learning to shoot guns and planning raids to collect hidden evidence and living in a crime boss's penthouse. Her life had become unrecognizable. We leave in 15 minutes, Min-Jae announced, appearing in the doorway. Amara, you're with me and Marcus. Ji-won, you stay here with Aoife. Dae-young, he switched to Korean, giving orders to the young tech guy, who nodded rapidly. Where are we going? Amara asked. Namsan Tower. To get the first piece of your mother's puzzle. His eyes were hard, focused. Thorne will have people watching tourist locations by now. We need to move fast, get what we came for, get out before anyone realizes what we're doing. 15 minutes later, they were in a black SUV heading through Seoul's morning traffic. Marcus drove. Min-Jae sat in the passenger seat, constantly scanning their surroundings. Amara was in the back, watching the city wake up, street vendors setting up, office workers hurrying to subway stations, the endless flow of humanity that made Seoul pulse with life. Tell me about the ledger, Amara said. Everything. If I'm risking my life for this, I deserve to know what it is. Min-Jae was silent for a moment. Then, 12 years ago, I was nobody. Just muscle for a small-time gang running protection rackets in Busan. But I was ambitious. Stupid ambitious. I heard rumors about the Dragon sect keeping detailed records of all their operations, insurance, basically. If anyone betrayed them, they'd have proof to take them down too. So I stole it. Broke into their headquarters, found the ledger, took it. That's what got you beaten and left in that alley. Yes. They caught up to me 3 days later. Would have killed me if your mother hadn't found me first. He glanced back at her. The ledger I stole covered 5 years of operations. Every crime, every payment, every official on their payroll. It should have been enough to bring them down. But I was a criminal. No one would believe me. No prosecutor would touch evidence that came from a theft. So I gave it to your mother. She was legitimate. Respected. She could use it. And she hid it instead. She tried to use it at first. Went to prosecutors, police, journalists. Everyone either laughed at her or threatened her or disappeared her complaints into bureaucratic black holes. The Dragon sect owns too many people. She realized the only way to make it count was to gather even more evidence, so much that it couldn't be ignored or buried. So she went underground. Started documenting everything herself. And she split the evidence into pieces to keep it safe. 3 pieces, Amara said, remembering the letter. 3 locations. Yes. Which means we need all 3 before we can move against Thorn. Partial evidence will just make him angry. Complete evidence will destroy him. Min-Jae's voice hardened. And I want him destroyed. For what he did to your mother. For what he's done to this city. For every life he's ruined in his climb to power. They parked at the base of Namsan Mountain. The cable car station was just opening, early tourists already gathering. But Min-Jae led them past it to a service road, pulling out lockpicks with practiced ease. Maintenance entrance, he explained as the lock clicked open. No cameras, no tourists, just a steep walk up. You okay with heights? I'll manage. The climb was brutal. Amara's legs burned, her breath came in gasps, but she kept moving. Marcus stayed behind her, ready to catch her if she stumbled. Min-Jae moved ahead like he'd done this 1,000 times. They reached the observation deck just as the sun broke fully through Seoul's morning haze, flooding the city with golden light. The fence of lovelocks stretched before them, thousands upon thousands, all those promises made in metal. Your mother brought you here for your 16th birthday, Min-Jae said. You said it was the best day of your life. I was 16. Everything felt huge and important. Amara moved along the fence, her fingers trailing over cold metal, reading names in a dozen languages. We took the cable car up. She bought a lock at the gift shop. We wrote our names together with a silver marker. She seemed sad that day. I thought she was just homesick. She was planning her disappearance. This was one of your last days together, and she knew it. Min-Jae's voice was soft. I'm sorry. That's not something a daughter should have to carry. Amara kept searching, her eyes scanning rows of locks. Then she saw it, tarnished brass, the marker so faded she could barely read it. Adana and Amara Johnson. Forever. This is it, she breathed. Min-Jae was beside her instantly. Let me. He pulled out what looked like a dental pick, working at the lock's mechanism with steady hands. It popped open after a moment, revealing its secret. Inside, a USB drive, small and outdated, and a folded piece of paper that Amara's hands trembled as she unfolded. Her mother's handwriting stared back at her, as familiar as her own face. My darling Amara, if you're reading this, I'm either gone or running out of time. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for leaving you and Aoife. I never wanted this. I wanted to watch you grow up, see you become the brilliant woman I know you'll be, dance at your wedding, hold your children. But some choices aren't really choices. They're necessities dressed up as options. The USB contains the first piece, names and dates from 2009 to 2013. It's not everything. I split the evidence into 3 parts to keep it safe. You're smart, my girl. Smarter than I ever was. You'll figure out where the other pieces are. Second location, where we bathed together, and you said the water reminded you of home. Where I kept things that mattered. Look for the number that changed everything. Third location, the place where I met the dragon. He'll know. Trust him, Amara. I know it sounds insane, but he's one of the few truly good people I've ever known, even if he doesn't believe it himself. He's broken and trying to heal. Help him if you can. I love you. I love Ife. And I'm sorry I chose truth over your safety. But someone had to stand up. Someone had to say enough. Make them pay. But more importantly, survive. Live the life I didn't get to live. Be happy in ways I couldn't be. Forever your mother. Adana. Amara read it 3 times through tears she couldn't control. Her mother's words, preserved here among all these promises of love, waiting 7 years to be found. The bathhouse, Min-Jae said quietly, reading over her shoulder. Your mother used to go to a traditional Korean bathhouse in Itaewon. Said it reminded her of communal bathing traditions from home. She kept a locker there. What number? I don't know. But you will. She said to look for the number that changed everything. He carefully took the USB drive. We need to get this back to Dae-young. Have him decrypt it. But first, he looked at her, really looked at her, seeing the tears, the grief, the weight she was carrying. Take a minute. Say goodbye to this moment. There's no rush. There's always a rush. You said Thorn is coming for us. Thorn can wait 60 seconds while you process finding your mother's words. His voice was surprisingly gentle. I've learned that lesson the hard way. Some moments need to be honored, even in the middle of war. So Amara stood there, holding her mother's letter, looking out at Seoul spreading below in the morning light. Her mother had stood here with her 11 years ago. Had bought this lock. Had written their names. Had hidden this message knowing her daughter would find it someday. Had believed Amara was smart enough, brave enough, strong enough to finish what she'd started. I won't let you down, Mom, Amara whispered. I promise. They made it back to the SUV without incident. But as Marcus started the engine, Min-Jae's phone rang. He answered in Korean, his expression darkening with every word. Shit, he said, ending the call. Thorn knows we're collecting the evidence. He's moving against us. Ji-won says there are cars circling the building where the penthouse is. They haven't breached yet, but they're watching. Waiting. For what? For us to come back. To lead them to the next location. Min-Jae's jaw was tight. We can't go back there. It's compromised. We need a new safe house. Now. Marcus was already driving, taking turns seemingly at random, constantly checking the mirrors. Where to? Itaewon. The bathhouse. We get the second piece now before Thorn figures out that's where we're going. Min-Jae looked at Amara. You said your mother mentioned a number that changed everything. What number would that be? Amara's mind raced through memories. Her birthday? No, too obvious. Ife's birthday? Her mother's? Then it hit her. April 14th, 2008. The day she got the call that she was being stationed in Seoul. She always said that day changed everything, changed where we lived, changed her work, changed our whole family's trajectory. 4-1-4-0-8. Locker number or combination? Could be either. We'll have to check. They arrived at the bathhouse just as it was opening for the day. The ajumma at the desk looked suspicious when Min-Jae tried to pay for Amara to enter, but money smoothed everything over. It always did. I'll wait here, Min-Jae said. You have 15 minutes. Get in, find the locker, get out. If anyone approaches you or anything feels wrong, you text me immediately. Understood. Amara nodded and pushed through into the humid warmth of the women's section. The bathhouse was beautiful in its simplicity, tile and wood and the sound of running water. A few elderly women were already bathing, their conversations echoing softly. Amara moved through to the locker room, trying to look like she belonged here. The lockers were numbered sequentially. She found number 414 easily, middle height, slightly rusted. She tried the combination from the date, 4-1-4-0-8. The lock clicked open. Inside was a small waterproof bag, sealed carefully. And taped to the inside of the locker door, a note in her mother's handwriting. The tree where we carved our initials grows from roots deep in African soil. Look for home in Itaewon. The restaurant that closed but never died. Locker 147. Amara took the bag and memorized the note, then carefully removed it and tucked it in her pocket. She closed the locker and left quickly, trying not to draw attention. Min-Jae was waiting exactly where she'd left him. She handed him the bag wordlessly. Another clue? Yes. A Nigerian restaurant in Itaewon. It closed down 5 years ago, but my mother loved it. She said it reminded her of home. Amara's mind was racing. But why give me a second locker number? 147. What's that about? Maybe the restaurant had storage lockers for regular customers. Or maybe there's something else there we're meant to find. Min-Jae checked his phone, his expression tightening. We have a problem. Ji-won says Thorne's people just hit the penthouse. They're tearing it apart looking for evidence. What about Ife? Safe. Ji-won got her out through the service exit 20 minutes ago. They're at a secondary location. He looked at Marcus. Get us to the Nigerian restaurant. Fast. Before Thorne figures out that's our next target. The drive through Itaewon was tense. This was one of Seoul's most international districts, American military base nearby, expats everywhere, restaurants from every corner of the world. The Nigerian restaurant had been on a side street, small and easy to miss. It was boarded up now, the windows covered with faded notices about lease violations and building codes. But when Min-Jae tried the door, it opened easily, lock already picked. Someone's been here, Marcus said quietly, hand moving to his concealed weapon. They entered carefully. The interior was gutted, tables and chairs gone, kitchen stripped. But the walls still had faded photographs of Lagos, of Nigerian markets, of the Africa Amara's mother had left behind. There, Amara pointed. Along the back wall, a row of small storage lockers, the kind restaurants used to use for regular customers to keep their personal plates or utensils. Locker 147 was near the end. It opened easily, no lock, just a simple latch. Inside was another waterproof bag. And this time, something else, a photograph. Younger Amara, maybe 7 years old, sitting on her mother's lap in this very restaurant. Both of them laughing, covered in what looked like a gussie soup. Happy. Safe. Together. Amara's hands shook as she took the bag and the photo. We need to move, Marcus said from the doorway. I see a car circling the block. Might be nothing. Might be Thorne's people. They left through the back exit, moving quickly through alleys that Marcus navigated like he'd memorized the entire district. The SUV was 3 blocks away. They made it back just as Amara heard shouting behind them, Korean voices, angry, urgent. They found us, she gasped. Then we lose them. Marcus peeled out, the SUV's engine roaring as they merged into traffic. Behind them, a black sedan followed. We're being tailed, Min-Jae said calmly. Too calmly. Marcus, lose them. Amara, get down. She ducked below the seat line as Marcus took a hard turn that threw her against the door. The SUV wove through traffic, took corners at speeds that should have been impossible, went the wrong way down a one-way street while horns blared. Then gunfire. Sharp cracks that made Amara's ears ring. The back window exploded inward, safety glass raining down. Stay down. Min-Jae had a gun out now, was leaning out the window, returning fire with precision that spoke of years of practice. More turns. More speed. Seoul blurred past in streaks of color and sound. And then suddenly they were in an underground parking garage, the SUV skidding to a stop in a space that looked pre-designated. Out, Marcus ordered. There's another vehicle waiting. Move. They ran to a nondescript van. A woman Amara had never seen before was behind the wheel, young, Korean, with hard eyes that said she'd seen violence and not flinched. They're right behind us, Min-Jae said as they piled in. I know, the woman said in English. I'm ready. She drove calmly up the garage's exit ramp. At the top, the black sedan was just entering. The two vehicles passed within feet of each other. But the sedan didn't stop, didn't turn around. Just kept going down into the garage, searching for them in the wrong place. Nice, Marcus said appreciatively. I've done this before, the woman replied. Where to, boss? Safe house in Yongsan. The one from 2019. They drove in silence through Seoul's afternoon traffic, just another van among thousands. Amara slowly sat up, brushing safety glass from her hair, her hands still shaking with adrenaline. You okay? Min-Jae asked. I think so. Are you hit? No. Marcus, I'm good. But the SUV's done. Too much damage. Doesn't matter. We got what we came for. Min-Jae held up the 2 waterproof bags. 2 down, 1 to go. And then we have everything we need to destroy Thorn. The 3rd location is Busan, Amara said. The restaurant where you met my mother. Where she saved your life. Yes. Which is the most dangerous piece to collect because Thorn knows about that connection. He'll have it watched. Min-Jae's expression was grim. We'll need to plan carefully. Go in with a full team. Be prepared for a fight. When do we leave? Tomorrow. Tonight we rest, we decrypt what we've found, we plan the Busan operation. And we make sure your sister is really safe. If Thorn's escalating this fast, he might try to take her again to force your hand. They arrived at the safe house, an apartment building that looked completely ordinary from the outside, but had reinforced doors and security cameras hidden everywhere. Ji-won was waiting with Ife, who launched herself at Amara the moment she walked in. Are you okay? Ji-won said there was shooting. I'm fine. I'm okay. We're both okay. Amara held her sister tight, breathing in the familiar scent of her cheap drugstore shampoo. I'm so sorry you're caught up in this. Stop apologizing and just finish it, Ife said fiercely. Whatever Mom started, whatever this is, finish it so we can go home. I'm trying. That night, they gathered around Daejung's laptops as he decrypted the USB drives. The first one from Namsan showed exactly what Min-Jae had promised, years of Dragon Sect operations, meticulously documented. Names, dates, crimes. Financial records showing millions of won flowing through shell companies. Video footage of officials taking bribes. Audio recordings of orders being given to kill, to silence, to destroy. Your mother was incredibly thorough, Daejung said, awe in his voice. This is better documentation than most police departments manage. If we can get this to the right prosecutor, it's enough to take down half the Dragon Sect's leadership. What about the second drive? Amara asked. Still working on it. The encryption is more complex. She really didn't want this one found. His fingers flew across the keyboard. Give me another hour. While they waited, Ji-won made food, simple Korean comfort dishes that reminded Amara how long it had been since she'd eaten a proper meal. They sat around the small dining table, this strange collection of people thrown together by circumstance and desperation. Tell me about my mother, Amara said suddenly. All of you. What was she really like? Not the version I remember, but who she actually was here in Seoul. Ji-won spoke first. She was fearless, but not reckless. She always calculated the risks before she moved. And she genuinely cared about the people she was trying to help. I saw her sit with trafficking victims for hours, just listening, bearing witness to their pain. She didn't treat them like sources or stories. She treated them like human beings who deserved to be heard. She was kind, Marcus added. Genuinely kind in a way that's rare in this world. She brought me books when Min-Jae told her I was struggling with PTSD. Medical texts about trauma and recovery. Never asked for anything in return. Min-Jae was quiet for a long moment. Then, she saw people's potential instead of their past. When she looked at me, she didn't see a criminal or a gang member or someone who'd killed people. She saw someone who could choose to be better. And she believed in that choice so completely that I started to believe in it too. His voice was soft. She saved my life. But more than that, she saved my soul. Gave me a reason to be something other than a weapon. Amara wiped tears from her eyes. Did she ever talk about us? About me and Ife? Constantly, Ji-won said with a smile. She was so proud of you. Showed me pictures of your school awards, your first published article in your high school newspaper. She knew you'd be a journalist. Said you had the same stubborn need to expose truth that she did. She worried about you, Min-Jae added. Worried that you'd follow her path, take the same risks, end up in the same danger. That's why she hid the evidence instead of publishing it. She was trying to protect you even as she was documenting everything. Got it. Dae-young suddenly shouted. Second drive is decrypted. They crowded around his laptop. The second USB contained more recent evidence, 2014 to 2019. The Dragon Sect's operations had expanded massively in those years. More officials corrupted. More victims trafficked. More money laundered through an increasingly complex network of businesses. But there was also something else, a video file labeled for Amara, play only when you have all 3 pieces. Don't open it yet, Min-Jae said quietly. Your mother wanted you to have all 3 pieces before you watched whatever that is. We respect that. One more piece, Amara said, staring at her mother's file name. One more location. And then we see what she wanted to tell me. Tomorrow we go to Busan, Min-Jae confirmed. It's a 3-hour drive. We leave at dawn, we get the 3rd piece, we come back, and we put everything together. And then his expression went hard. Then we end Choi Thorn and the Dragon sect permanently. They spent the rest of the night planning. Min-Jae laid out the Busan operation with military precision, who would go, what routes they'd take, what contingencies they had if things went wrong. Ji-won would stay with Ife in Seoul. Marcus, Min-Jae, and Amara would make the Busan run along with 2 other members of Min-Jae's team Amara hadn't met yet. At midnight, exhausted and running on fumes, Amara finally retreated to the small bedroom Ji-won had prepared for her. She lay in the dark, thinking about everything that had happened in the past 48 hours. Her life had become unrecognizable, shooting guns, running from criminals, decrypting evidence, living in safe houses. A knock on her door pulled her from her thoughts. Come in. Min-Jae entered, looking as exhausted as she felt. Couldn't sleep either? Too much adrenaline. Too many thoughts. She sat up. Did you need something? To check on you. Today was brutal. You almost died twice. Most people would be falling apart. I'm falling apart on the inside. I'm just very good at holding it together on the outside. He smiled slightly. I recognize that skill. I've spent years perfecting it. He sat on the edge of the bed, careful to maintain distance. Your mother would be proud of you. The way you're handling this, the choices you're making. You're stronger than she expected. I don't feel strong. I feel terrified. Good. Terror keeps you sharp. It's when you stop being afraid that you make fatal mistakes. His voice was quiet in the darkness. I need you to understand something. Tomorrow in Busan, things might go bad. Thorn knows that's our last target. He'll have forces waiting. And if it comes down to a choice between getting the evidence and keeping you safe, I'm choosing your safety. Every time. That's not your call to make. Actually, it is. Your mother asked me to protect you. I promised her I would. I'm keeping that promise even if you hate me for it. I don't hate you, Amara said quietly. I should. You kidnapped my sister. You blackmailed me into working with you. You've turned my life upside down. But I don't hate you. I don't know what I feel about you, but it's not hate. Min-Jae looked at her in the dim light filtering through the window. I don't know what I feel about you either. But whatever it is, it's complicating everything. I'm supposed to keep you safe and at a distance. I'm not supposed to care what happens to you beyond fulfilling my promise to your mother. But I do. Care, I mean. And that's dangerous for both of us. The air between them felt charged, heavy with things unsaid. Amara's heart was racing for reasons that had nothing to do with fear. We should both get some sleep, she said finally. Tomorrow's going to be difficult. Yes. But he didn't move. Just sat there, looking at her like he was memorizing her face. Amara, if something happens tomorrow, if things go wrong and I don't make it back, nothing's going to happen. But if it does, the evidence is everything. Getting it to Prosecutor Park Min-Jung is everything. Don't risk yourself trying to save me. Promise me that. I can't promise that. Then promise me you'll finish what your mother started. No matter what. That's all that matters. Amara looked at him, this complicated, dangerous man who'd saved her sister, taught her to shoot, protected her from people who wanted her dead. Who looked at her like she was something precious and terrifying all at once. I promise, she said. But you're coming back. We both are. Because I need answers that only you can give me about my mother. And because she stopped, not sure how to finish that sentence. Because, he prompted gently. Because you don't get to make me care about you and then die before I figure out what that means. Something shifted in his expression, surprise, maybe, or recognition, or hope. Fair enough. I'll do my best not to die then. He stood to leave, but paused at the door. For what it's worth, your mother saw this coming. All of it. She knew that if something happened to her, you'd follow her path. That you'd find the evidence and try to finish what she started. And she knew you'd need help. Someone who understood this world. Someone who owed her a debt they could never repay. He looked back at her. She orchestrated all of this, Amara. Even her own disappearance. She built you a path through the darkness and left me here to help you walk it. You're saying she planned to die? I'm saying she made contingencies in case she did. That's different. She hoped to survive. But she was prepared not to. And she made sure that if the worst happened, you'd have what you needed to carry on. Min-Jae's voice was heavy. She loved you enough to plan for a future she wouldn't be part of. That's the kind of person she was. He left, closing the door softly behind him. Amara lay back down, her mind spinning. Everything she thought she knew about her mother's disappearance was being reframed. Not a random tragedy. Not a simple murder. But a chess move in a game that had been playing for years. Her mother had been a player, not a victim. Had made choices knowing the costs. Just like Amara was doing now. She finally slept, but her dreams were filled with her mother's face, with dragon tattoos that moved like they were alive, with the sound of gunfire and the smell of cordite and a video file waiting to be opened. When she woke, dawn was breaking and Seoul was preparing for another day. Time to go to Busan. Time to get the last piece. Time to see what her mother had left for her in that final video. The drive to Busan took exactly 3 hours. Min-Jae drove, Marcus rode shotgun, and Amara sat in back between two of Min-Jae's people she'd been introduced to briefly, a woman named Sun-hee who looked like a college student but had apparently been special forces, and a man named June who didn't speak much but had the kind of stillness that came from years of violence. They went over the plan during the drive. The restaurant was still operating. Min-Jae had kept it open, kept the same staff, kept everything exactly as it had been when Amara's mother had saved his life there 12 years ago. The evidence would be hidden somewhere inside. They'd go in during lunch rush when it was crowded, find what they needed, get out. Simple. Probably too simple. Thorne's people will be watching, Min-Jae said as they approached the Busan city limits. The question is whether they'll move against us in a public place with dozens of witnesses. What do you think? Amara asked. I think Thorne's desperate. And desperate people do desperate things, witnesses be damned. He glanced at her in the rearview mirror. Stay close to Marcus. If shooting starts, you run. Understood. Understood. The restaurant looked exactly like it did in the photograph, small, weathered, tucked into a side street near the fish market. The smell of spices and cooking meat wafted out. Inside, it was crowded with lunch customers, mostly dock workers and market vendors eating quickly between shifts. The owner, an elderly woman with kind eyes, recognized Min-Jae immediately and greeted him in rapid Korean. He responded, gesturing to Amara, and the woman's expression softened into something like wonder. She knows who you are, Min-Jae translated. She remembers your mother. Says you look just like her. Where would my mother have hidden something here? Amara asked. The owner's apartment is upstairs. Your mother stayed there for 3 days while I healed. Let me ask. More Korean, faster now, urgent. The owner's expression shifted from nostalgia to understanding. She nodded, beckoned them to follow, led them through the kitchen to a narrow staircase. The apartment above was small but immaculately clean. Traditional Korean furniture mixed with personal touches, photographs, plants, a small Buddhist altar. The owner went directly to a cabinet, pulled out a box, handed it to Min-Jae with trembling hands. Inside was another waterproof bag, and a letter addressed to Min-Jae in Amara's mother's handwriting. She left this for you, Amara said quietly. Min-Jae stared at the letter like it might burn him. I should read this later. No. Read it now. We need to know if it contains information about the evidence. He opened it carefully, his hands steady despite what Amara could see in his eyes. He read silently, his expression shifting through emotions too complex to name. When he finished, he was quiet for a long moment. What does it say? Amara finally asked. She knew she was going to die. She wrote this 3 weeks before she disappeared. His voice was rough. She says he stopped, collecting himself. She says she's proud of the man I've become. That she knows I'll keep fighting to be better even after she's gone. And she asks me to protect you and Ife. To make sure you don't follow her path unless you absolutely have to. To give you a choice she never had. She gave me a choice. I chose this. I know. And she predicted you would. She knew you too well. He folded the letter carefully, slipping it into his jacket. She also says the third piece of evidence is in the false bottom of this box. And that once we have all three pieces, the video file will explain everything. What she discovered, why she had to disappear, and what we need to do to finish what she started. They found the false bottom exactly where she'd said. Inside, the third USB drive and a small notebook filled with her handwriting, names, dates, observations, sketches of Dragon Sect organizational structure. This is incredible, Amara breathed, flipping through pages. This is years of fieldwork. She mapped their entire operation. She was brilliant, Min-Jae said simply. And brave. And she paid for it with her life. Marcus's voice came urgent through their earpieces. We have company. 3 vehicles just parked outside. Multiple hostiles. We need to move now. Shit. Min-Jae grabbed Amara's arm. Backstairs. There's an exit that leads to the alley. Go. They ran. Sun-hee and June were already moving, weapons drawn but concealed. The elderly owner was shouting something in Korean, warning the customers, maybe, or just reacting to the sudden tension. They made it to the back stairs just as the front door crashed open. Shouts in Korean. The sound of customers screaming. Then gunfire, loud, close, terrifying. Go, go, go. Marcus was behind them, returning fire, giving them cover. They burst into the alley. A van was waiting, Ji-won behind the wheel, engine running. How had she gotten here? When? I had a feeling, she said grimly as they piled in. Good thing I trust my instincts. Hold on. The van peeled out just as Dragon Sect men emerged from the restaurant, firing at them. Bullets pinged off the reinforced exterior. The back window shattered. But Ji-won drove like she'd done this 1,000 times, weaving through Busan's narrow streets with terrifying precision. Everyone okay? Min-Jae demanded. I'm hit, Sun-hee said calmly, pressing her hand to her side. Blood seeped between her fingers. Not bad. Clean through. But I need a hospital. We can't risk a hospital. Thorn owns half the doctors in Busan. Min-Jae was already pulling off his jacket, using it to apply pressure to her wound. Ji-won, get us to the safe house. I'll call our doctor. They drove for 20 minutes, constantly checking for tails, taking turns that seemed random, but clearly weren't. Finally, they arrived at what looked like an abandoned warehouse. Inside, it was set up as a medical facility, basic but functional. A man in his 60s was waiting, medical bag already open. Gunshot. Through and through. Right side. I've got her. Everyone else out. Give me space to work. They retreated to another room while the doctor worked on Sun-hee. Amara was shaking, adrenaline finally catching up to her. Marcus handed her water. Min-Jae was on his phone, speaking rapid Korean, coordinating something. We need to get back to Seoul, he said after hanging up. Tonight. Thorn knows we have all 3 pieces now. He'll be coming for us with everything he has. Then we finish this, Amara said, her voice steadier than she felt. We go back, we watch my mother's video, we compile all the evidence, and we take it to Prosecutor Park. We end this before Thorn can stop us. Agreed. But we need to be smart about it. Thorn will have people watching the roads, the train stations, the airports. Min-Jae was thinking out loud. We split up. Take different routes. Make ourselves harder targets. No, Amara said firmly. We stay together. We're stronger together. And I'm not losing anyone else. She stopped, realizing what she'd almost said. Min-Jae looked at her, understanding in his eyes. Okay. We stay together. But we take the route Thorn won't expect. Ji-won, can you get us a boat? A boat? We go by sea. Busan to Incheon, then drive into Seoul from the west. Thorn's people will be watching the highways and train lines. They won't expect us to come by water. Ji-won smiled. I know a captain. Owes me a favor. Give me 30 minutes. Those 30 minutes felt like hours. The doctor finished with Sun-hee. She'd be fine, he said, but needed rest and antibiotics. They couldn't take her with them. She'd stay at the safe house until she could travel safely. I'm sorry, son, he said to Amara. I should have been faster. You took a bullet protecting me. Don't apologize. Amara squeezed her hand. Thank you. The boat was small, designed for fishing, probably used for smuggling. The captain asked no questions, just took Min-Jae's money and pointed them to the hold below deck. They spent 6 hours on rough seas, all of them seasick except Ji-won, who apparently had a cast-iron stomach. Amara huddled next to Min-Jae, both of them trying not to throw up, the 3 USB drives and her mother's notebook sealed in waterproof bags. Never again, Amara groaned. Next time we just fight our way through on land. Noted, Min-Jae said, looking equally miserable. But they made it. Arrived in Incheon at dusk, transferred to a waiting car and drove into Seoul as night fell. The city glittered before them, beautiful and dangerous and home. They went straight to the safe house in Yongsan. Ife was waiting, launching herself at Amara the moment she walked in. You're alive. Ji-won wouldn't tell me anything except that it was dangerous, and I should pray. I'm okay. We're okay. We got it. We got everything. Amara held her sister tight. It's almost over. They gathered around Daejung's laptop, all of them, everyone who'd been part of this impossible week. Min-Jae, Marcus, Ji-won, Daeyoung, Ife, and Amara. Daeyoung loaded all 3 USB drives, compiled the evidence into one comprehensive file. This is insane, he breathed. This is 10 years of documentation. Thousands of pages. Hundreds of hours of video and audio. If Prosecutor Park takes this to court, the Dragon Sect is done. Finished. Thorn and everyone under him goes to prison for life. Then let's see what my mother wanted to tell me, Amara said. Daeyoung opened the video file labeled for Amara. Her mother's face filled the screen. She looked tired, older than Amara remembered, but her eyes were clear and determined. My darling Amara, the recording began. If you're watching this, you found all 3 pieces. I'm so proud of you. I knew you could do it. You're smarter than I ever was, braver than you know. Tears were already streaming down Amara's face. Ife grabbed her hand. I'm recording this 3 weeks before I plan to disappear. Yes, plan. This isn't a kidnapping or a murder, though I'm sure it will look like one. I'm going underground because I've been compromised. The Dragon Sect knows I've been gathering evidence. They've put a price on my head. If I stay visible, they'll kill me and destroy all the evidence I've collected. But if I disappear, if I make them think I'm already dead, maybe I can buy enough time for someone else to finish what I started. Min-Jae's hand found Amara's shoulder, steadying her. I'm leaving everything to you because you're the only one I trust completely. You and Ife are my heart, my reason for everything. But you're also the only ones who can't be bought or intimidated or corrupted by this system. You're outsiders here. That gives you power people born into this system will never have. Her mother's expression shifted, became harder. The Dragon Sect isn't just a criminal organization. It's a cancer that's infected every level of Korean society. Police, prosecutors, judges, politicians, so many of them are compromised. Thorn doesn't just run drugs and guns and prostitution rings. He owns the people who are supposed to stop him. That's why traditional law enforcement has failed. That's why I had to work outside the system. She paused, taking a breath. But I'm one person. One researcher with a notebook and a camera. I've documented everything, but I can't publish it alone. I need a journalist with a platform and credibility. I need a prosecutor who's clean and brave enough to take this to court. I need people willing to risk everything for justice. Her eyes seemed to look directly at Amara through the screen. I'm hoping you'll be that journalist, my love. I know it's not fair. I know it's dangerous. I know I'm asking you to put yourself in the same danger that killed me. But you have something I never had, you have Min-Jae. He'll protect you. He'll give you access to resources and information I never had. He'll fight for you because he's a good man pretending to be a bad one, and deep down he wants redemption more than he wants safety. Min-Jae's grip on her shoulder tightened. The evidence you've collected is enough to bring down Choi Thorn and most of his organization. But it's not enough to change the system. That takes time. Generations, maybe. All you can do is light the match and hope the fire spreads. Expose them. Name them. Make them face consequences. And then trust that the next generation will carry the torch further than you could. Her mother smiled, sad but genuine. I love you, Amara. I love Ife. I'm sorry I couldn't be there to watch you grow into the woman I know you'll become. But I'm not really gone. I'm in every article you write, every truth you expose, every choice you make to stand up when sitting down would be easier. That's how we live forever, through the work we leave behind and the people we inspire to carry it forward. She leaned closer to the camera. Make them pay, my darling. But more importantly, survive. Live a long, full life. Fall in love. Have children. Be happy. Don't let this fight consume you the way it consumed me. Finish it, and then walk away. Promise me that. The video ended. The room was silent except for Amara's quiet sobbing. Ife was crying too. Even Marcus looked shaken. Min-Jae's face was carved from stone, but his eyes were bright with unshed tears. She planned all of it, Amara finally said. Every piece. She knew she'd die and she did it anyway. She was trying to buy you time, Min-Jae said quietly. By disappearing, she made Thorne think the threat was gone. That the evidence died with her. It gave you 7 years to grow up, to become a journalist, to build the skills you'd need to finish this. 7 years she could have spent with us. 7 years she spent protecting you from a distance. Making sure Thorne didn't know about you. That you could live normal lives. Jiwon's voice was gentle. That's love, Amara. Terrible, painful, sacrificial love. Amara wiped her eyes roughly. Then, let's make sure it wasn't for nothing. Dae-young, compile everything. Every file, every video, every audio recording, every page of her notebook. I want one complete, undeniable package. And then we take it to Prosecutor Park tomorrow morning. What if she refuses to take the case? Marcus asked. Then we release it ourselves. Online. Every platform. Let the court of public opinion do what the actual courts won't. Amara stood, her voice steady now despite the tears. My mother spent 10 years building this case. She died for it. I'm not letting it disappear into bureaucratic black holes. One way or another, the truth is coming out. Min-Jae was watching her with something like pride. You're your mother's daughter. But you're also something she wasn't. You're willing to burn it all down if that's what it takes. Is that a bad thing? No. It's exactly what we need. He stood too. Everyone get some rest. Tomorrow we end the dragon sect. Tomorrow we make sure your mother's sacrifice meant something. Tomorrow, he looked at each of them. Tomorrow we change Seoul. But as they dispersed to their respective rooms, as Amara lay down trying to process everything, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. I know you have the evidence. I know you're going to Prosecutor Park tomorrow. But ask yourself, how did I know that? How do I always seem to know what you're planning? Maybe you should look closer at the people you trust. Maybe the dragon you're sleeping next to has been playing both sides all along. Sweet dreams, journalist. T. Amara's blood ran cold. She stared at the message, her mind racing. Was Thorne lying? Trying to sow discord and mistrust? Or was there actually a traitor among them? And if there was, how could she possibly know who to trust? Thanks for watching part 2. This episode ends here. But the story continues. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe so you never miss the next episode.